So the U.S. are through to the hexagonal, but now what? Next on The Daily. Hey everyone, welcome to The Daily. I'm Greg Lawless alongside Simon Borg. And last night, the United States national team did what they had to do. They got a 3-1 victory against Guatemala. It wasn't as easy as it probably should have been, but in the end, they did get the win thanks to 2 goals from Clint Dempsey. Our own Jason Sagini and Andrew Wiebe were at the game.
Thanks, guys. The crowd here at Livestrong Sporting Park, we've come to expect it, Andrew. They were electric, and the U.S. needed it after falling behind early in the match. Not what you expected from Jurgen Klinsmann's side in such a big matchup.
No, a little bit of a hush came over the crowd in the 5th minute after the U.S. came out on fire. Really pushed the Guatemalans to the edge. Then all of a sudden, as Carlos Ruiz is wont to do, he pops up and gets himself a goal. A little bit of miscommunication by the U.S. back line. A ball gets given away by Michael Bradley, and all of a sudden Ruiz is in behind. Jeff Cameron and Carlos Bocanegra nowhere to be found. They were very frustrated about that moment, and so was Jurgen Klinsmann. But the encouraging thing in all of this, they bounced back, they came back, they shut it down in that second 45 minutes and booked a crucial place in the hexagonal.
Yeah, it really looked very good on the offensive side going forward. A lot of guys getting into the act, and you mentioned it. They move on to the hexagonal at the top of their group. We all know what awaits them there. Mexico, a Honduras team that looked very good today, scoring 8 goals against Canada. The U.S. has to be favored to advance, though. You have to finish in the top 3 for that automatic berth.
Yeah, just like the expectations were to win this group, which the U.S. accomplished, the expectations will be that they finish in the top 1 or 2 in hexagonal. That's going to be a difficult task, as you said, but progress has been made. Jurgen Klinsmann said he's happy with some of the new players they brought in. Graham Zusi, now a huge part of this group. Jeff Cameron has nailed down his place in the center of the defense. Now it's about building the project and moving it to fruition. This was just the early stages, the beginning growth. Now can they turn that plant into something truly beautiful before the World Cup?
Yeah, and remember, this is a team that's still going to add players like Landon Donovan, Fabian Johnson, who we've seen a lot of things from as they move on and those guys return to health. That's all we have here from here at Livestrong Sporting Park. Back to you guys in New York.
Thanks, guys. Let's take a look now at the 6 teams that did make the hexagonal. Costa Rica, Honduras, Jamaica, Mexico, Panama, and of course the United States. Now, Simon, we heard Weebs there say that the U.S. are favorites to get through out of this hexagonal. Do you agree?
I think they are among the favorites to clinch one of those top 3 spots. But Mexico, they are the favorites to finish first. Tim Howard, after the game, says, you know, in my opinion, we are the toast of CONCACAF. You're not. The United States is not. It's Mexico. And then it's going to be Costa Rica, Honduras, Panama, and the U.S., 4 teams battling for the other 2 spots. That's the race that's going to happen here. I don't give Jamaica much of a chance in this one.
You don't, but you give Panama that much of a chance. Do you think the U.S., are you basing on this Guatemala and the Antigua game? If you look at the 6 games, right, it was maybe more difficult than the U.S. should have had. We saw Mexico breeze through, of course. But are you really that worried that they won't get through? They won't get one of those 3 spots?
I just think the games are going to be tight. Against that level of opponent, I think all the games are going to be tight. And Clint Dempsey said it himself after the game. On the road, the U.S. has not done well. And those are the toughest road environments you can ask for. In Costa Rica, in Panama, in Honduras, and that's not mentioning Estadio Azteca. U.S. already lost in Kingston. So those road games are really going to be the difference between, are they going to be a number 2 team, a number 3 team? But for me, Mexico's number 1.
So often you almost think that Klinsmann didn't expect what he has gotten on the road here in CONCACAF. Last night during the game, there were Twitter things going around, and I got emails and texts from people saying, I don't think you realize how difficult it is to win on the road in CONCACAF. It is very, very difficult to get a result here. Reasons, obviously, the travel is a lot farther than people expect, for one. The conditions are not great when it comes to weather. It's super hot, super humid, a lot of places. The fields are not great. You're not necessarily getting the training facilities in those countries that you are used to in the US or in Germany or anywhere in Europe for that matter. So there are a lot of factors, and we're not even talking about the fans and the atmosphere. We saw it in that Honduras-Canada game. The atmosphere plays into this as well. Yeah, they're pro athletes, but you know what? It's difficult to go into that atmosphere and play at your top level. Ultimately, it didn't matter last night. The U.S. did play a good game. They got a 3-1 victory against Guatemala, and they're through to the hexagonal. Well, for all the good stuff that came out for the U.S. on Tuesday night, it was a horrible afternoon for Canada. They fell 8-1 in Honduras. 3 goals from Jerry Bengtson from the Revolution, 2 goals from Mario Martinez from Seattle, and Carlo Costley, the former Houston Dynamo guy, also got a hat trick for Honduras. Simon, what went wrong here for Canada?
You know, the funny thing, you see that 8-1 result, no one's going to remember those golden opportunities Canada had early to take the lead, to equalize. You wonder what would have happened. Wonder what would have happened if they had Diro and Olivier Ocean in this game. 2 of their best players, their most experienced players.
And their best finishers, too, in situations.
Absolutely. Right. But you saw it happen, that when the second goal went in, the heads went down, and mentally they weren't able. Look, I think tactically Canada wasn't really well put on the field. They weren't organized enough. There were too many spaces, and the Hondurans so skillful, and they took advantage. It was so easy for them. There's a lot to look at here.
Well, let's look at this a little bit for Canada now. What do they need to do? Where does Canada look? We talked about it on Extra Time Radio earlier this week, and we said, look, this is still a positive cycle for Canada. But what do they need to do to get over this hump? At least just to get into the Hex first, and then worry about getting back to the World Cup.
This sounds simplistic, Greg, but better players. I think you saw the difference in the quality of players from Honduras to Canada. The technical level, the tactical level. You know, again, Canada was stretched so much, and it comes down to me to having more players playing in Major League Soccer. You saw Jamaica with all their MLSers; they've made the hexagonal.
Honduras with lots of MLSers
absolutely
now.
And MLS. You look at that the U.S. team, I should say. Most of those players, except 1 or 2, bred in MLS. So I think Canadian teams, Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, they need to me, sacrifice competitive considerations and invest in the Canadian player, even though there might be a price to pay for that. I think you can't have a Vancouver team, in my opinion, full of international players and Americans. We're the Canadians. That's what has to happen, and the United States national team has benefited from it.
Well, I think that some of the academies up in Canada are starting to help that, but didn't help them this time around. Canada will have to look forward to next summer's Gold Cup as their next chance to really make an improvement. Well, the international break is done. Time to get back to MLS action. It starts tonight on NBC Sports Network, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll have a live chat on MLSsoccer.com. It's the Seattle Sounders hosting Real Salt Lake. A couple of players from both teams have taken that private jet up to Seattle from Kansas City from the U.S. game. Simon, what do you make of this game?
It is massive, in my opinion, Greg. Why? Because Seattle in this game has to send a message to Real Salt Lake, because these 2 teams are going to meet in the first round of the playoffs coming up. And they need to send a message to Salt Lake. This year, we're going to beat you, because you remember last year, Salt Lake handed to them at Rio Tinto Stadium, then held on. I think Seattle, very important. If they're really going to make a push for MLS Cup, they got to really hand a sound defeat to Real Salt Lake.
Well, earlier this week on Extra Time, actually, we had head coach Jason Kreis from Real Salt Lake talking about how it's this year. They have to win or they might blow this team up in the offseason. So for Salt Lake, it's also important. They want to get that home field advantage in particular going into the playoffs. Again, that game is at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC Sports Network. That's all we have for the daily, but make sure you check out March to the Match coming out on MLSsoccer.com a little bit later on today. And if you have any comments or questions or whatever, leave them in the comment box just below or hit us up on Twitter. That's it. We'll talk to you tomorrow.